All right, so to my dear friends, distinguished guests, and my esteemed speakers, a very good evening to all of you. And thank you so much for taking the time to join this webinar tonight. Before I continue, I'd like to welcome all of you with the greeting of peace and harmony. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. So before I start, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Fatina Khairi, and it's my pleasure to be your MC for this webinar. I hope all of you are as excited as I am for what's going to come really shortly. We have a lineup of amazing highlights that will really help you learn more about the Islamic finance industry. And at the same time, get to know more about the wonderful people that we've invited specially for you guys. And it's not just that. Do you know that this is actually the first time that IF at SG has started a Raya Networking session for the IF industry? So guys, you are the chosen ones to have graced this session tonight in Singapore. With that, please give yourselves a pat on the back, okay? You can do a round of applause too, but yeah, I won't be able to hear it, so no worries. Next up, I'd like to give a big shout out to our partners and sponsors who have been so generous to help make this event possible. So thank you to Muslims in Finance, AMP Singapore, Global Sadaqah, as well as ISGN Ventures Private Limited. Okay, so before we proceed, let me give you a short breakdown of what's going to come for the program. So right after this, we're going to have an icebreaker, and after that, we're going to have a video sharing. After which, we're going to start with the main highlight of the webinar, which is the panel discussion with our esteemed and special speakers. And after that, we're going to have a short and intimate Q&A session. So guys, feel free to ask any questions that you like, okay? And we're going to have our closing as well as conclusion for the entire session for this evening. All right, so I'd like to give a big thank you to our event sponsor, Al Nahal Hani. So before we proceed, we'd like to share a video presentation about our event sponsor. So Brother Fazili, over to you, please.
Islamic finance is a broad topic that can be challenging for most of us to understand and apply, especially in a civil society. It includes topics like financial planning, investment, insurance, loans, a banking system that follows the Sharia law. All of these topics require you to do proper research in order for you to understand. Searching for information can be easy with the help of the internet, but you might not be able to differentiate whether the information is accurate or not. Even if you understand the fundamentals of Islamic finance and Islamic financial tools, would you be able to apply it in your daily life? That requires a person with the expertise to guide and inform you with the right information. We present to you Islamic Finance Singapore, a one-stop center that discusses Islamic finance's research, current news and products. It aims to be a reference to the community in Singapore regarding Islamic finance, whether it is in theory or practice. Islamic Finance Singapore is a platform that consists of students, professionals and scholars studying or working in Islamic finance. These professionals, scholars and students will discuss the issues and suggestions one can make in relation to Islamic finance. These are the experts that can provide insight on how to best manage your finances that conforms with Sharia law. We aim to provide insights from expertise and more information to the community. We conduct events, seminars and webinars and invite experts to give some guidance on Islamic finance matters. At the same time, we work with the society, government and organizations to solve the issues that could arise from Islamic financing in a secular state. If you want to find out more information on Islamic finance, visit us on our social media platforms and join us.
All right, thank you so much, Brother Fazli, for the video presentation on Islamic finance. Okay, so right now we're going to share the video about our event sponsor. So again, guys, sit back and relax while we see a short video about Al-Nahl honey. All right, back to you again, Brother Fazili. Okay, so maybe there's like a short technical error, maybe. Um, Brother Fazili? Guys, meanwhile, while waiting, just take a sip from that cup of coffee or tea which you have by your side, okay? No worries. This is just a small technical glitch which we always face when we have video conference. So, yep, not to worry about it. All right, amazing. So once again, thank you so much to our event sponsor, Nahal Honey. So you guys, if you feel like you want to give yourself a boost in your immunity system, please head over to Nahal website, all right? Okay, so now let's proceed. Okay, it got a bit jammed there. Oh, all right. Okay, so before we start our panel discussion, let's just get, a bit of a warm up. And we have a small mini icebreaker prepared for you guys. So I know most of us here are millennials, or even so, we all have our phones here, right? So guys, whip out your phones and go to slido.com and key in the code 51331. Alternatively, you can also scan the QR code featured on the screen there. Okay, so guys, please participate in this. I'm expecting to see all your answers online. So yes, you have 1 minute to do this, or maybe 30 seconds. So again, go to slido.com and key in the code 51331. Great, amazing. We already have one response. So if you guys see here on the screen, the first question is, what are you looking forward to most in this webinar? Okay, great. So 4 of them. So let's see. Someone wants to have a better understanding of Islamic finance. Okay, great. Okay, more about Islamic finance principles. Moderator and panelists are solid. Yes, I totally agree. Yes. How to start? Okay, great, amazing. Insights into Islamic finance as well as opportunities in the industry. Okay, self-reflection and improvement. Right, so it seems that a lot of you have joined this webinar to gain more understanding about the Islamic finance industry here in Singapore. All right, to understand investment. Okay, great. We have a lot of Islamic financial consultants. So if you are interested, we'll be more than happy to direct you guys to them. Okay. Gain updated knowledge on Islamic finance and what's in store in the future. All right. Okay, so alhamdulillah, about personal finance and Islamic finance as well, okay? So not to worry. Okay, we also have someone who wants to know how to ensure the transactions are Islamic compliant. So basically the main theme for our participants here today, basically revolving around Islamic finance. So guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask any of our speakers, especially we have some with extensive Islamic finance experience. So make the most out of this valuable chance. All right. Cheat sheet of permissible financial instruments in Singapore. Oh, okay. This one, I believe our organizer has prepared one. So again, inshallah, at the end of the session, we can email the cheat sheet of the financial instruments to you guys. Okay. All right. Okay. So now let's move on to the next question. Give one word to describe how COVID-19 has affected your life. Great. So someone has said reflective, uncertain, stressful, free, resilient, cornered, pay cut. Okay, yes. A lot of my friends have got the pay cut as well. MashaAllah. Okay, we have some positive here, guys. Positivity, alhamdulillah. Enlightening. Opportunity, great. So in every challenge, we can always see an opportunity inside there as well. Restrained, grateful, eye-opening. Boring, okay, but right now we can start to go out, right, guys, starting today. So yeah, start to take those leisurely walks at parks or anything. Or you can even meet some people, personally and learn more about Islamic finance if you have the time. What, sedentary? Oh no, okay, my English is not that good. What's sedentary? Okay, I don't have the dictionary close by, but I will be sure to look up that word, all right? Okay, so right now the two main words will be are reflective and growth. Amazing. And this is what I really expect from you guys, and I can see that my expectations are being met. We are all here to learn from our great speakers, to reflect on everything that has happened in our life, as well as to identify opportunities for our own personal growth. Okay, more answers are coming in. Great. Good money. Okay. All right. Chill. All right. So thank you guys so much for participating in this short icebreaker. We're now going to move on to the next segment. Okay, so we have done this already just now. And yes, great. The moment that all of you are waiting for. So without further ado, allow me to introduce to you guys our amazing moderator for the panel discussion. So Mrs. Shabana Muhammad Hassan is an independent Sharia consultant and has served multiple roles in the Islamic finance field. She was a researcher in ISRA, contributed in the writings of several significant books of the Islamic finance field, including the comprehensive Islamic Financial Systems, Principles and Operations. Besides lecturing in universities, she regularly contributes her writings to different publications, including Islamic Finance News, and she also has a master's in Islamic finance from Durham University, as well as an economics degree from IIUM. In 2018, Mrs. Shabana was also awarded Top 50 Most Influential Women in Islamic Finance. Totally amazing. Mrs. Shabana, you're one of my inspirations as a woman. All right. Okay. So now, let me introduce to you guys our wonderful panelists for tonight. First of all will be Dr. Shamsia Abdul Karim. So Dr. Shamsia has a PhD from Durham University and has extensive experience in Islamic endowment. She currently serves as the CEO of Pergas Investment Holdings, which is affiliated to the Singapore Islamic Scholars and Religious Teachers Association. She has held leadership roles in several companies, namely Deputy Director in Asset Management for Muis, CEO of Al-Bukhari Foundation, and Senior Vice President of Bank Muamalat. So there you have it, guys. Our first speaker, Dr. Shamsia Abdul Karim. Next, we have Mr. Bashir Buhari. Bashir Buhari graduated from London School of Economics and has an MBA from Cranfield Institute of Technology. He was the former managing director of ING Bank in Singapore before he retired last year after gaining more than 40 years of banking experience. He started as a management trainee in Bank of America and subsequently moved to ABN AMRO before joining ING Bank in 1994. Throughout his career, he has held management roles in project finance and structured finance with extensive experience in debt markets, aerospace, and corporate finance activities. Next up, we have Farid Khan. Farid Khan is the chairman of Bourbon Offshore Asia, managing director of Bumi Subsea Asia, CEO of Greenship Holding since 2013, as well as the director of Maxury Private Limited. He is a veteran in the maritime industry with over 40 years of experience. His career kick-started with Neptune Orient Lines in 1976, after which he moved to an offshore construction barge company in Indonesia. He then worked for various shore-based companies, holding positions from tech manager to general manager. And last but not least, we have Wal Shalafa Salih Al-Habashi. So Wal Shalafa is the current director of First Abu Dhabi Bank, covering Southeast Asia and Australia. He started his career as a graduate management trainee of a Malaysian bank and has experience working for CIMB and ING Bank, Singapore. He specializes in structured finance and is responsible in managing First Abu Dhabi Bank's credit business, in particular Indonesia and Malaysia corporations. With that, guys, I would like to hand over the time to our wonderful moderator, Sister Shabana. Shabana, please.
Thank you very much, Fatina, for the very nice introduction. And thank you to all the participants for being a part of this IF@SG Raya Networking Webinar. Well, I must say, all our 4 panelists today are among the best of the best in our Muslim community, coming from diverse backgrounds such as banking, business, Islamic social finance, and also the marine industry. So with that, we from the IF@SG would like to say thank you to all these accomplished panelists for putting aside your valuable time to be with us today and hopefully to be able to share insightful information to our participants. Okay, let us now start a discussion which is on everyone's lips, and that is the recent COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, well, I must say today is a very happy day for almost all Singaporeans because we have now moved to the opening of the phase 2A of the circuit breaker. And also, as most countries have already started to open up their country slowly, the negative impact of this pandemic is still very clearly visible. So, and one of the most important sector that we are looking at right now is actually the banking sector. For example, due to this COVID-19, there are slowing down of banking activities, a slowdown in hiring, and etc. So talking about hiring in the banking sector, let us now move to our first speaker for today, and that is Mr. Bashir Buhari, which is the managing director of the former managing director of ING Bank. So Mr. Bashir, with your vast past experiences in the banking industry, do you think this COVID-19 pandemic will actually change the way the banking industry actually shortlists their candidates? And if yes, what are the additional skill sets that these young executives now need to be able to successfully thrive in this new normal environment? What's your view on this?
Assalamualaikum to everybody, and good evening and welcome. I hope you guys can hear me clearly. I mean, first time I'm testing this out again. So as far as COVID-19 is concerned, obviously it has changed business model, but I can only give my view more in terms of the banking sector. So as far as I'm aware, the banking sector has already gone through a lot of changes over the last 10 years, actually. So to me, the COVID-19 pandemic actually accelerate those changes. So it's not changing because of pandemic itself, but actually it's being accelerated by it. So what happened is that you find that, in the banking sector itself, there's always been a cost-cutting measure. Every other day, if you read the newspaper, whether it's HSBC or Citibank or even, big banks, they're basically cutting headcounts, cutting costs. And that's really driven by having to reduce the infrastructure costs. And it's mainly driven by the fact that technology has actually overtaken the banking industry. So you find that less people actually needed in the banking industry, because a lot of the processing and data storage and data processing, etc., are being done by computers and technology. So you find that that is already happening. And actually, if you look at during the pandemic time, people don't go to branches. A lot of the bank branches are closed. You draw money on ATM, but most of your payment are actually online. Your transfers are all online. So that has been happening, and it will continue to happen. So it is a structural change. Therefore, the related question is actually, how do you prepare yourself for the skill sets? I think in general, banking will always look at candidates who are actually confident in terms of expressing themselves and actually willing to learn, because this is an industry that will change over a period of time, and it is changing fast. So you must have the ability to actually change with that industry as well. If you have a finance background, I think that's useful because that gives you a bit of an edge. But even if you don't have a finance background, I think if you are more or less confident and I think are sociable and easy to get along with people, etc., I think that's always a role. But bear in mind that this is an industry that will go through tremendous changes over time.
Okay, Mr. Bashir, you did mention that the COVID-19 actually accelerate the changes that have already been there in the past 10 years within the banking sector, right? So
Yeah.
is it accurate for me to say that this pandemic is actually something that can be seen as a positive thing for the banking sector, or what's your view on this?
Well, it's very strange to say that the pandemic is actually a positive thing, but I can certainly tell you, just give you one example. In terms of working from home, when I was still around 3-4 years ago, we have actually started testing for people to work from home. But many of the managers of the staff refuse to do that because they think, these people will be lazy working from home, they'll be spending time watching TV, etc. And funny enough, the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, actually forces people to work from home. And then if you look at it now, I think in banking, more than 60-70% of the people are already working from home. So in that sense, actually, yeah, I can say that the pandemic actually have accelerated certain aspect of it.
Yeah, okay, so even though it's strange, but actually what I'm trying to say, there's a hikmah behind this thing. Okay, all right, now let's move to our next speaker, and that's Mr. Farid Khan. Mr. Farid, who is actually now wearing multiple hats. First, one of it is the chairman of Bourbon Offshore Asia, and also recently he was appointed as the president of the Singapore Malay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, SMCCI. So, Mr. Farid, looking from your scope as the president of SMCCI, how does this pandemic actually impacted the overall growth of Singapore's Malay Muslim community, especially towards the Malay Muslim businesses? And for example, recently there is a lot of hype among the Muslim community due to the loss of income, particularly during Ramadan and the Hari Raya seasonal period for the home-based businesses. So in your view, and what are also the proactive measures that have been taken by SMCCI to help cushion the losses of these Malay Muslim businesses? Thank you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum. I think when the COVID started to emerge late last year, a lot of people still feel that it will not be as bad as what it was now. So when it started to come to Singapore and start to hit our businesses, even in February, we still didn't feel the impact that much. But then slowly some industries start to take a hit. For example, tourism, the F&B, when they start to put the COVID measures, the CBs and all that. So, but in SMCCI, we did prepare as much as we can. So when the impact really came and hit all our businesses, our members' businesses, so what we did was we engaged them because at that time government start to release the budget, assistance budget, job support scheme and all that, and some grants and all that. So what SMCCI did was to make sure that all our members are aware of all those government grants and how are they can apply and to get these grants. And we keep them all the time informed of any new development from the government side, because a lot of assistance come from the government. So in SMCCI, we put two task forces immediately. One is the stabilization packages to make sure that if we hit a soft land, not a free fall, by having all these government grants and injecting cash into the companies. But still, it's still going down. It's hit a lot of them quite badly. So there was a big panic. Let's be fair. A big panic. How prepared are you? You are not prepared for something like it never happened before, unprecedented. So a lot of people got hit, and some who cannot sustain, or they start to close the companies. By April, they start to close the companies and cut the losses and walk away. So, but we are also in SMCCI right now as we engage, and we also prepare them for the post-COVID. So post-COVID is, how are you going to manage your companies after this, what happened? It will never be the same again. If you think it will be business as normal, it will never be the same again. I think this is reality that everybody have to face. It will never be the same again. So we put the task force, for the second task force was the task force was for the transformation, where digitalizing, what Basir was saying was correct. You have to adapt. You must be willing to digitalize your businesses, and so that you can reduce your costs. So this is what we are doing currently with all our members.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farid. Okay, you did mention about the government grants, a lot of assistances given to the SMCCI members by the government. At the same time, I also believe that apart from these government grants and assistances, we can also look at the potential Islamic social finance instruments that we have in Singapore right now, like zakat, wakaf, sadaqah, to actually play a more effective role to assist all these affected parties. Yeah, so moving to our next speaker, Dr. Shamsia. Well, I believe there is no more qualified person who can actually speak on this Islamic social finance instruments in Singapore, apart from Dr. Shamsia, who is an expert in wakaf and zakat. So Dr. Shamsia, in your view, what do you think? Can all these Islamic financial social instruments can actually help to navigate the after effects of the COVID-19 pandemic? Please share your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Shabana. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And good evening to all participants today. Yeah, we had this, unprecedented event of COVID-19 that has struck everybody, not just Singapore, but the whole world. So, in fact, it started with health, and then it moved into the economy. And you can see that many people are now being unemployed, displaced from their employment. The participant, in fact, mentioned that they have a pay cut. So I'm sure there's a lot more people who will eventually be hit by this economic downturn due to COVID. So the Islamic financial tools that is already in existence. I mean, even during even before Prophet Muhammad itself, even during Nabi Isa, we have the so-called zakat, which is already in place. So zakat and wakaf and donations, and you mentioned Qard Hasan, all these are Islamic financial tools to alleviate poverty, to finance the Islamic society actually. So if you look at the tools that we have, zakat is actually for the 8 asnaf. So one of the major elevation of poverty is to the asnaf of fakir and miskin. So due to COVID-19, there are it's Alhamdulillah, people are still, because of their obligation, we can see that people are still contributing to zakat. And there are many organizations and out there who actually facilitate this collection of zakat. And recently, for example, Pergas has actually taken a very proactive step to ensure that the self-employed asatiza who was really very badly hit due to the closure of mosques, closure of classes, which they have, it will affect their livelihood. So there was a donation drive that was done by Pergas, and we have Alhamdulillah managed to collect about 400,000. And this money is to tie up the asatiza who has been affected by this COVID-19. And also, not only that, the money that has been collected has also been used to actually enhance their capabilities in terms of their technical capabilities, to ensure that in a very different setting now, everything is online, everything you have to use technology to reach out, to give your sermons and the religious teachings and so on. So the teachers, the asatiza now has to embrace all this technology. And coming back to this COVID situation, and it has affected a lot of organization as well. You can see that the mosque, the closure of the mosque, donations are also affected. So because of that, in Pergas, and I think when I look at many of the organizations which is in Singapore currently, and maybe many more out there, they do not have a proper fund to sustain some of the activities that they need to do to relieve their vision. So things like, if you want to continue sustain the organization, to ensure that if your vision is to alleviate poverty, then you yourself have to be you have to make sure that you are sustainable to ensure that these activities can be carried out. So we have started the endowment fund, which I think organization must create an endowment fund so that it can provide that sustainability in the future for all their activities. So this is where the wakaf comes into play. So zakat is a fund which is obligatory upon all Muslims, and it has to be distributed during the year. Whereas wakaf is an endowment where you keep the capital and you only distributed the income for the beneficiaries. So I will see a lot more, and technology is a very important tool. And going digital, we are talking about digital, everything is digital. And rest assured, in the Islamic sphere, in the religious sector, we too have to embrace digitalization. So Alhamdulillah, I think many organizations, even MUIS has started, it's a very long journey on making sure that the digitalization of the collection is done. You can also see the Global Sadaqah. They have, you know, even embrace on crowdfunding, using crowdfunding platform in collecting zakat and so on. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, you did mention about the digitalization, right? So like, for example, talking about digitalization, I think recently in regard to Wakaf, what they have is blockchain and Wakaf, which is the most recent thing that's been going on, you know. So maybe you can share a little bit more on what is actually blockchain and Wakaf is all about.
Okay, I think blockchain is just the technology that is being used. So it can be used in many forms lah. But in a Wakaf transaction, you have the trust deed, you have the contracts, you have the collection, you have the investment. So when you talk about endowment, you have the trust deed, what you want to do from the testator, and then you have the investment that you have to ensure that all this investment that is also one of the things that people are not aware, that in Wakaf there's this investment that they have to manage, and then you have the beneficiary. So the blockchain ensure that the process flow are very efficient, very transparent, and that you transparent, so that you know where the money is invested in, and then how does the income is being distributed to the beneficiary. So these are technologies that is coming up, and it is you know, all these religious and Islamic finance tools, we need to keep up.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Shamsia. Okay, let us now move to our youngest speaker. Well, I don't know what is actually his age, but I assume he is the youngest among all. Okay, Mr. Wal Salafa Saleh. Okay, I believe a majority of the audience here today, they somehow have a certain exposure to Islamic banking and finance. So can you share a little bit with us, especially to these younger generations, what are the actual prospects of a career in Islamic banking and finance in Singapore, especially with, you know, all this current pandemic that's going on, and even, you know, before this pandemic, what are the prospects? Is it bright or is it lackluster? Can I have your view on this? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Hi all. I think I just want to cover, I think the key message here would be Islamic finance per se in Singapore. Before COVID-19 or even before the GFC pandemic, I speak from the industry by and large. I think Islamic finance in Singapore per se is actually very small, and we know it's very limited. So to begin with, I think about how it has evolved and developed over time, it has actually kind of developed at some pace, but I would actually say, to be very blunt, frankly, it's very modest. So with the existing pandemic that we're all going through, I think things will be even harder. So I think the industry would require one would actually both you have to have both set of skills, because the underlying the knowledge skill sets is transferable from both the conventional to Islamic and vice versa. And again, my experience, especially in ING, actually taught me a lot that you kind of actually see that most of these conventional financing, especially on the corporate space, can be transferred in the Islamic finance. Just that, of course, the documentation, the legal and whatnot will change. But the underlying transaction, the negotiation, the structuring, once you have that, I guess it's actually easier to have a footing. And again, let's take a one back step. Before I joined FAB, I was in ING, right? So joining FAB was actually because of the hybrid role. I think probably most of us would actually have to take that kind of approach where you actually been in conventional finance, be very good in that, and then ensure that you master certain sectors or certain industry that you're very good at. And thereafter, I mean, again, I repeat, the credit skills remains the same, right? Because every dollar you lend out, be it in Islamic finance or conventional finance, it's probably the same whether you're going to get repaid, right? So therefore, thereafter, you actually want to jump. I mean, you go into the pure Islamic finance space, banking, probably more so in Malaysia, Brunei, and even in GCC. When I mean GCC means you have to be there, okay? You have to be in Oman or even the UAE or even KSA, Saudi, per se. Right, in Singapore, probably you would actually be happy if you have not say happy, but you have to actually make do of having a hybrid function where you do both the conventional and also the Islamic. And it's up to you as an individual whether once you're at that capacity or once you're at the position, you are the game changer. You can actually decide. You decide whether how much you want to push. And again, at that point of time, your skill sets are equipped. You have good relationship with your clients. Your knowledge in the market is in certain industry will be quite strong, and then hopefully by that the market in Singapore would actually be more accepting. So again, I speak that in Asia or Southeast Asia, it is. I think Singapore, the landscape and the framework probably don't really support. But it's up to us when you are in that position of certain function of certain power that you can make. It's up to you to influence and allow this to happen, right? Because things will not move if you don't make it happen, right? So it's again, as a banker, you have to make it work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wal. Moving to Mr. Bashir. Well, Mr. Bashir, all of us here are aware, that the banking industry is a very tedious and challenging one. So maybe you can share with us any tips on how we can actually stand out in this workforce. Like, for example, is it necessary for the younger generation when they enter into the banking world to find a proper mentor to further push, nurture, and develop them, to be someone of a better standing in the future? What's your view on this?
Okay, first of all, I think if you want to stand up, especially in big organization where there are many people, one of the important things is that you should be willing to volunteer beyond your normal job responsibility. So you may have a specific job, but there could be additional projects, or they could be community services that the company is doing, etc. So I think it's always good to volunteer on that. It may cost additional time for you, but when you are doing those kind of things, I think management will actually be able to see you. So that helps you in terms of increasing your profile, but also actually in also increasing your network. So just to give an example, I mean, I'm sure some of these big companies every year they have an annual dinner and dance or annual event. Volunteer to be on one of the organizing panel. So that helps you to increase your exposure to senior management, but also to connect to other members within the organization. So that's one example. In terms of mentor or mentorship, I think it's not only relevant in the banking sector, it's actually relevant in any industry, whether it's in corporate world, legal, medical. And I can tell you that to a large part, I have to say that my success is also related to the fact that I have a very good mentor. Mentor doesn't mean that he or she opens door and give you the job promotion, etc. But mentor is basically someone who is senior and have good experience. It could be in a different department, it could be in a different company, but within the same industry. So if you have a mentor, I think he or she should be able to guide you, and when you are stuck or you are not sure about what to do, etc., that's where you use your mentor to bounce idea. That's one. And number two, I think if mentors are in the same industry, they may also look out for opportunities or areas of interest that you might want to do. So personally, based on my experience, I would say mentorship is actually very important, and it's very much based on chemistry with with someone that you meet in the organization also, because there is no such thing as you choose a mentor or mentor choose a mentee. So that's the reason why, if you are more sociable and you end up meeting more senior people within the industry or within your company, he or she slowly can become your mentor. And more often than not, this mentorship is actually unwritten, but roughly if you can have a person to bounce off ideas or look for information, or to see and ask for whether there are opportunities around in terms of jobs, etc. That's what I would say a mentor is all about.
Okay, thank you. So basically, in summary, these two important aspects. One is to do volunteer, basically to increase your profile and network. And second, to find yourself a good mentor to be able to help pass ideas and look out for great opportunities, right? Okay. All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Wal, being in a similar industry to Mr. Bashir, maybe you can actually further add any further tips on how to stand out in this banking arena. Like, for example, how you can set yourself positively apart from the rest.
I think first thing first, when you're in industry, I think I just want to cover 3 points. One is your intention, right? So you need to understand why are you there. What's your intention? And someone ever told me this, that, and probably across the floor, no one actually asked you to sign the contract or the employment letter from day one. So your intention needs to be very right from the moment you sign, the first day. So first impression counts, and your niyat, your nawaitu needs to kind of actually, if you want to be the best, you tell you write it, define it. Yeah? You got to define it. Okay, what you want to do, what do you want to achieve in a year or 2 years? Define it. Because success, you need to actually, how I was actually being mentored was that you have to write it down, and you know what's your intention. And then I think number 2, there's a lot, any big organizations, there's a lot of naysayers and whatnot. So again, yourself. Point number 2 is yourself. Focus. And when you start off, you better clock in crazy hours as a banker. You must be willing to do, like what Bashir mentioned, additional work. And I recall experience certain things that you work like crazy hours just to get your deal done, and not because of the compensation or because of the bonuses. That could be at the back of your head later, but I think primarily it's because, again, your intention. Coming back to intention, right? I think point number 3, it's actually the surrounding, right? So the people around you, your family, your loved ones, your spouses, your circle of friends, right? So again, these positive vibes will actually be able to influence you to do better, or make you feel, or you can feel you. So if you, again, I think at the end of the day, it's you got to actually you got to tell yourself that you want to give your best, and not because of anyone forced you to do anything that, and then over time, I'm sure if you put the right mindset to it and the right hours, again, as in banking, in banking, the big banks, in any bank, I tell you the hours are crazy, but you just got to get used to that, and after some time, you know how to manage. So again, and finally, I think in industry, what I've seen, people who are successful as they climb up, they can listen. They listen to their mentor. They listen to their bosses. Sometimes we might disagree to some of their advice, but listening, because I've seen some good ones feeling in my earlier days. They're very good, but just that they were not willing to listen. So perhaps the younger generation, I include myself as well, and for the floor, listen. There will be 1 or 2 key good points that we can learn from the seniors. Not everything, but perhaps 1 or 2. So once you, and I think that, and taking that, and with your good values, you combine them together, aggregate them, inshallah, you can be a good banker out there.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wal, for your answer. Okay, I've just been informed by the organizer that more than 1/3 of the audience today is female. So since more than 1/3 of the audience today is female, let us now talk about something that is female related. And I believe that the most suitable person to discuss this is the female panelist, Dr. Shamsia. So Dr. Shamsia, Well, I can see that in the case of Islamic finance, right, the field is largely dominated by men. But you are actually one of the few that managed to really stand out, where recently you were awarded one of the world's most influential women in Islamic finance for both 2018 and 2019. Maybe you can share with the audience on any valuable tips on how you are able to be where you are now. And during this process, is there any specific female leader or female mentor that you look up to? Dr. Shamsia, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shabana. You yourself are very successful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think like the other speaker mentioned, it doesn't, when it comes to work, it doesn't matter whether you are a male or a female, because your bosses will look at you to get the job done, and you got to get the job done in the best manner possible. Not just in the male dominated world. I started my career with Rank Xerox, which is now called, I think, Fuji Xerox. That was in the 1990s. So I was with my hijab, not just female. You are a Muslim female, that becomes even harder. So how do you stand out? You just have to put in the hard work. You just have to prove yourself that you can do the work. Whether you can even do the work better than the rest. So I would like to share, especially there's a lot of, you mentioned in the participants that there are females and a lot of millennials. They are starting up their career and so on. There's no shortcut. There's no free lunch. You have to work your way through. So I have 4 things that I want to share. One is the mental set, spiritual set, the heart set, and the physical set. First, the mental set. I think we should keep on learning. That is very important. We have to knowledge and our mental set. We have to just keep on learning. Especially, I think, Mr. Bashir, you mentioned about, you cannot just stick to that one job that you are doing. For example, you started with, for me, I started with the ledger in an accounting department. So we just have to, talk to our colleagues and so on and try to help them out. Some people will say that, oh, that's not my job. That is another department's job. But that is where you actually learn and you grow your knowledge, because you are just starting out. And that's a free education when you are actually working in that particular department. So in that particular company. So you grow through depth and breadth as well. So you know a lot of things through that company. That is knowledge and continuous learning. Spiritual set. I think that's very important as Muslims. I think there's the participants are all Muslims, right? Or there are anyway. If you're not, the spirituality in you is very important. It sets you, focus. It sets the purpose in life. It sets the purpose why you what you want to do and why you are doing it, and the choices that you take, especially for female. For ladies, there's choices which nobody can can think for you. It is choice that you have to take as a mother, as a wife. There's so many things to juggle, and at the same time your bosses will breathe down your neck. So that's the choices you have to manage, how you want to juggle. So that spirituality is very important to keep you strengthened inside internally. And then you have the heart set. Empathy is also very important to ensure that when we work as a team, we understand, and when we have become the supervisor, when we have to supervise people and so on, and even more so in my line of work where I have to do a lot of the social work and so on, helping the poor, the disadvantaged. that empathy has to be there. And I think the very important also for me, and I think for all the females there, I keep on saying to all the females as well, that they have to have that physical set. Meaning you must have the stamina. You like just now Mr. Wall mentioned that crazy working hours that you have to work in a bank. I started with Rank Xerox. I knock off every midnight because of it's just the culture. It's not good, but that's how the culture is. You have to work very late, and that is part of it. And when I went to Malaysia, I just like to share this experience as well, which I work with one of the my boss there. He has a funny timing. He started at 12 midnight, and the meeting will there will be many CEOs which he will meet, and it will end like at 5 a.m. So if it is a choice. I'm not trying to scare the female out of this, but to do this, physical set, your mental set, all has to be very strong, and it is harder even because as a female you got to do many things. And very important is that you have a very supportive family network. That is your husband. As a female, if you are married, your husband must understand that, hubby, I'm going to have a meeting at midnight now and I'll be back around 2 or 3 a.m. So that kind of understanding must be there. So the give and take. But if you are not willing, then that's sure is a trade-off. I'm not saying that everything is easy. There's a trade-off. So that is one thing. But I think with now there is a lot of opportunity for the ladies. You don't have to go crazy like working all your the 24 hours. I'm sure with all this technology it has become better. Inshallah.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Shamsia. My husband is here as well, listening to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Shabana is still working at night.
Okay. Now let's move to getting some useful business tips for the audience. And I think the best person to answer this is actually someone that I really admire and respect. That's Mr. Farid. Mr. Farid, you are a leader in a field that is actually very tough to penetrate. To be able to successfully run your own marine company, you are the chairman of Bourbon Offshore Asia. Maybe you can share with us some of the important insights that you have gained in terms of leading a business, and what are the key considerations towards sustaining a business over a long period of time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sabana. Maritime business is tough. You are right, it's tough. Sometimes when I started, I was always at sea. I worked for maybe 9-10 months at sea, then I will spend 1 month, I will go out again. That's where I learned all the experiences that I have. Because one day, when you are in the office, you must know what are your men, the people that you hire going through when they were at sea, missing home and all that. So I sailed for 15 years to get all these experiences. Then I decided that this is the business that I'm very passionate about, then I will continue there. And I worked my way up until I set up my own company, and it keep on growing until now is one of the company in the Asia Pacific region. Okay, definitely you must have passion. In the maritime industry, you must have passion, because like what the other speakers are saying that about the long hours, we are the same, but we are always away from home. We are always on board the ships. which is if you don't get the family support, then it will be very difficult to manage this, because sometimes when your wife giving birth and you may not be there, you know, because you're on board a ship, you cannot get a helicopter to bring you back and all that. So these are all the things that you will go through. But in the long run, when you are now back in the management part, you're running your own business, all these play a big part. And to lead a company, you must always remember that there are people who are following you. You know, there are people behind you, watching you, all your decision, good, bad decision during good, bad times, how you react, you know. And these are all the things that you must know. People are following you, and these are professionals. They are engineers, you know, they are captains, you know, they're technicians, you know. So, and they depend on you. So you must show the leadership quality. And now, let's say, come during the COVID issue that everybody is facing. I mean, everybody is facing it, whether you're maritime or not. But we are a little bit tough because if our vessel is worth 50-60 million US dollar for one vessel, you know, if it's not working for 1-2 months, you know, one day I will lose, let's say, between $12,000 to $15,000 US dollar a day. I will lose, you know, and I have to keep the capex going, and the opex going. I have to still pay people salaries, you know, and keep in the warm stack or cold stack, whatever you call it, you know. So you have to be prepared when you are running a business like this. You must be ready for rainy weather. You must have cash. You must work with the banks, some Islamic financing, you know, they help you to sustain. No big companies can survive without banks, is for sure. You need to, your best partner is the bank. So as I grow the company, I become more closer to the bank, because from our personal cash, we will not be able to expand. So we talk to the banks, and the banking center, banking sector on the maritime industry, a couple of years ago, they are very aggressive, you know, very aggressive, because the rates are good, you know. For one vessel, you can get income 1 month or $2-3 million. So they are very passionate about that. It's a good business to be in. Then the crisis came and everything started to collapse. So back again, how you sustain your business now, even during the COVID time. You must have cash. You must have spare cash. You must react fast. Before the crisis hit you, you must be able to stabilize your company, and also the operations, because we cannot move people anymore, you know. So we are stuck at sea. Vessels are here. Vessels are all over the world. You know, I'm stuck. You know, and these are the things that you cannot sleep over, you know, when you do it. So the best thing is you must have proper structure in your company. Get the best of people to support you, and get the best of partners. I mean, the bank is to support you during good and bad times. I think that's one of my advice.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Farid. So to be able to run such a big company, you know, what will be your advice to the younger generations? Whether, you know, when they finish study, to actually start a business immediately after graduation, or to gain some form of working experiences first before venturing into business? What's your view on this?
It all depends on the business that you want to go in. Okay, throughout history, we can see that if you are in the IT, social media, all that, you know, you can straight away from the school, have enough training, go for all the training and build up the network, and you can carry on, you know. But for SME company, you know, you cannot. It's better that either you are well-versed in the business you want to go in, or you got people who are really can back you up, you know. But if you are going into a business that is heavy on assets, that means you can buy a ship or buy a big truck or something like that. Then definitely you have to be a little bit more careful, learn the ropes before and do the proper study, look at the business plan. Then you try to go and see and always remember that don't go more than what you can chew. No, don't buy more than you can makan apple or something like that. No, don't take too much or after you got choked. So this is something that I learned. I got choked 1 or 2 times before, so I remember the apple. So we have to be a bit careful there. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farid, for your insightful information. So Mr. Wal, moving to Mr. Wal, being the director of First Abu Dhabi Bank, covering the Southeast Asia and Australia at a very young age, how did difficulties in the past actually drive you to be where you are now? Mr. Wal, thank you.
Oh, it's muted.
Okay, hi guys. I think couple of things. I think number one is, for me, I speak challenges that you went through as a child or as a teenager or even today that you go through if you lose a job, will always remind you to be humble and grounded. And that's always something at the back of my mind, yeah. So that's, and even if a little bit of success you have or you earn, you might think you actually, that's your effort and all that, always remind yourself to actually be grounded. And the more things you achieve in life, or little, the more things you achieve in the banking space or individually or whatever you do, I think the more you should, I know the more you should contribute and share with those who are in the underprivileged community, and be open to share contacts. Again, I wasn't born with contacts, with relationships, I wasn't born with that. So you develop that habit, like what I think Bashir actually shared earlier. You need to be sociable, and once you earn, you have that kind of contacts, that kind of respect with your clients, be it with the government-linked company or a state-owned enterprise and the private groups, right? You realize that the bulk of them generally, I mean the owners, I speak for, are generally quite grounded and humble. I mean, they're always there's always some who spoil the market. But, when you look at them and then you kind of actually that they are actually very humble. So what about yourself? So what about people who and little things, when you're driving or you take a bus or whatever, you see people taking a bike, you do for them that, hopefully they have better, they can earn more and take care of the family things. So it's very critical for you to actually help, aside from working, aside from just challenges in life will always kind of actually make you either fail or break, either you fail or you will be better, right? So that is, again, I think when I mentioned to my earlier question, it's again yourself and then the people that you surround with. It's very critical. And I think Islam actually promotes muhsin, which is excellence. So the way how I look at this is, one of my mentors actually told me that take these challenges and convert them into an opportunity. I understand that a lot of us in the community, or maybe in the floor, will actually be telling me, oh, there are very few Malay or Muslim bankers out there. I totally agree. I can understand. I can relate to that. But that's where you need to go out and talk to the guys who are in the industry. Talk to them. Don't be shy. Be it in Singapore, there are a few out there in the abroad. Talk to them. Those who have retired, there are a few. Talk to them. Ask them. Don't be shy. So I guess all this that I speak with, it's when the more, I mean, all of us went through different challenges, right? So I reckon at the end of the day, it's how you take these challenges and convert them into an opportunity, and never say you can't do it. The challenge is the challenge is always yourself. Again, probably not everybody can agree to this, but one of my mentors in the banking industry, and he just retired. I'm not going to mention his name. He might have said it in a different way, but I'm going to just probably be useful. Nobody remember runner-up. You better be the first. So you either be the best or don't do it. So convert. So what I'm saying, when you go to a, you face a wall, just keep on pushing yourself, because you either be the best. I mean, it's Mohsin, it's excellent. That you got to tell yourself you want to be the best. I mean, you might not be the best, but you're trying to say that I want to be the best. I'm trying to your own best, yourself best. So that's how I will relate to this question on a personal note. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as we almost reached to an end, okay, I've been specifically asked to actually ask this question to Mr. Bashir. Okay, Mr. Bashir, as all of us here are aware, working in a bank involves both perks and its downside, right? And one of the perks is, of course, the ability to make lots of money with all the amazing bonuses, etc. But also it has lots of its downside, which includes clocking in very long hours, sacrificing your valuable time with your family, and also, the possibility of, because of the fact that you're very engrossed with your work, you will be missing out on your salah, your prayers, etc. So how do you actually stay grounded in your faith when you have reached this very high level of responsibility and possibly income? Okay, what's your, can you share with us your journey to be able to do so? Thank you.
Okay, maybe first of all, a correction. I think these days the perks are getting less and the hours are getting longer. But just to share, yeah, I think in everybody's life you go through different phases, and based on the phases that also impact in terms of how you want to achieve what you want. So I can tell you that during my younger days before I got married, of course, I worked very hard, and no issue at all. Even with my weekends all burn, no problem at all. And then you find that when you are married, you have to basically manage the time with your wife, so you become a bit more conscious about how long you want to work. And then when you have a kid or when you have children, you find that you have to juggle the time. So work-life balance becomes more important as you get older, and when you have children. And this is really based on individual or whatever your objective. If your objective is money, then you find that you may suffer the consequences later on. So to me, based on the experience that I've gone through, I think at the end of the day, work-life balance is very important. And depending on the phases of your life, I think you have to choose the kind of impact that you want. So at a later age, you probably don't mind working or getting less bonus or less perk because you want to spend more time with your family, for example. So that's just an example. Now, in terms of faith, to be honest, I think it doesn't matter whether you at the beginning of your career or at the end of the career. After all, how long does it take to do a salat? 5 minutes. So it really depends on individual. I've been posted in many countries as well, and my bosses are basically European. So despite that fact, you find that there's always an opportunity to do what's required of you in terms of faith. So I would say that that's not an excuse, to be honest. And in fact, again, talking about me personally, as my responsibility increased, and let's say over the last 10 years, I actually got more time. So I should be able to do more because I delegate more, So your responsibility may increase, but your time management is much better. You should be able to do it well. So my advice would be that your career is not an excuse if you to not to be able to do salah if that's really you want to do. So it doesn't matter which part of your career you're in. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, we have almost reached to an end because of the time limitation. So let us quickly move to the Q&A session. Okay, because of the time limitation, I'm only able to take very few questions. Okay, for the first one that I have here, I think the person that will be most suitable to answer this will be Dr. Shamsia. Okay, the question here, Dr. Shamsia, is how would you address the topic of riba and endowment plans? What is the correct mentality we should take towards it? And this is because most financial advisors are unsure about this. Thank you.
between riba and endowment plan. In Singapore, we have very limited choices in that sense. There are endowment plan that you have if you have the takaful, takaful endowment plan that is offered in the market. And then there's I think if you go to the finance asset management specialists, they have a few investment that you can put in, which is Sharia compliant. So I'm not sure about the question whether you mentioned riba and endowment plan. So there are endowment plan which is very secular and interest based, which I think a lot of the if you go to the conventional banking sector, they will of course offer the non-Sharia compliant investment plan. But you have the like of you can talk to like the asset management in Maybank. You can also talk to the Financial Alliance. Yeah, they have some investment that you can put in to be Sharia compliant. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we have another question here specifically directed to Mr. Farid. Okay, Mr. Farid, the question here says, in your view, what will the next outlook be for the oil and gas industry?
Okay, I wish that I can give a positive outlook, but we've been in a downturn mode since 4 or 5 years ago, where the oil price start to crash. And then we have another issue of oversupply in the oil and gas industry, because the big investment last 10 years before, oil and gas is the darling of investors, So everybody jump in and they put a lot of asset into the system. And then they come to oversupply maybe about 3-4 years ago. Then market was picking up. Till last year, it was going up very nicely, about 10-15%. In 2 years. Then come the price war, what you call it, the oil price start to collapse. So oil price start to collapse, then everybody pull back their investment, and then the COVID comes. So there's another problem but saying that if COVID keep on going, then the consumption of the energy consumption is going to go down. So we have 3 issues here. One is the price of oil. One is the problems that America have with China, which is one of the biggest consumer for energy. Then, of course, we have the oversupply, which is still in the market, floating in the market. So Personally, I feel, I'm not an expert, but personally I feel that all my plans that we look at least 2 more years, we need the COVID to go away, we need the oil price to go up, and we need the America and China start to sit down and think rationally. Currently, they're not talking, so everybody is suffering. So I will not invest in oil and gas at the moment. I won't. Even if you buy the asset cheap, still I buy vessels cheap, but I still cannot get it to go to charter. And the worst part is the bank will not give me any money to go and buy an asset, where the market is still not very certain where it's heading. So we will be a little bit more careful there. All right.
Okay, thank you. Well, actually, I'm not supposed to be taking any more questions, but well, I have a very interesting question here, actually. So let me pose this to Mr. Bashir, yeah? Okay, Mr. Bashir, if there was one thing you could tell your younger self who just started working, what advice would you give to yourself?
honestly, it's very difficult to say, because when I started in banking 40 years ago, banking wasn't a sexy industry. It was more like a utility. I don't think smart people go to banks. So if you ask me now, maybe smart people actually tend to go to the IT industry than anywhere else. So it's a bit difficult to talk in terms of the industry. But in general, it's actually right to say that anybody that starts out, it's very important that if you get a job, again, job's not very easy, but if you get a job, to really work very hard and to establish your network. I think that's important, both within the company and outside the company. So that's one. It's relevant throughout your career. And number two, I think you really have to also be mindful that you have to continuously learn and upgrade your skill. You should be taking courses that are relevant to you, or you should be reading very often, or whatever. I think all this will actually help, because in most industry, it will change over your career over the next 40-50 years. So I think by being flexible and trying to actually improve yourself, taking courses and doing other things that actually enrich yourself, I think that's probably the important aspect. It's not very specific, but it's more a lifelong journey. And ultimately, I think your religion should actually provide the moral compass, and that's basically what you have to use when you go through up and down, more down than up, I would say, but that's an important compass. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all the panelists today and thank you very much to all the questions that have been posed by the audience. For those that we don't manage to be able to ask, I'm deeply sorry, but again, these questions will be sent to the panelists for them to have an idea what are the things that are in the mind of the audience. Okay, so without further ado, let us now move to Sis Fatina for the next session in this event. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Shabana. Okay, once again, thank you so much to our wonderful moderator and speakers for the insightful discussion. Okay, so give me a moment, let me share my screen. All right. Okay, all right. So guys, I really hope that all of you have gained clarity on the steps you have to take to move forward and succeed. So with the valuable takeaways that we have gained from this insightful discussion by the speakers, let's put into practice the advice which have been shared with us, all right? Now, okay, so I understand very much that a lot of us have been affected negatively by COVID-19. However, there are many out there who may be in a more negative situation than us. So guys, here's an opportunity for us to do good for our community. I would now like to hand over to Dr. Shamsia, who will be sharing a bit more about a donation appeal. Dr. Shamsia, please.
Okay, thank you, Fatina. I'll just open my screen. Can you see the screen? Is it sorry, yeah. Are you able to see the screen? No.
Oh.
Okay. How do I do this? Okay.
Okay, Doctor. So can you see that there is a share screen at the bottom of your screen?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah.
Okay. Then you need to press onto So press on the screen which you want to share. Okay, great.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Some technical glitch. Okay. You can see all these, huh? Okay. This is the latest, actually our donation drive by, which is managed by Pergas Investment Holding, which is actually for Pergas itself. Like I mentioned initially in the beginning of the session, where we mentioned that there is, that sustainability that is needed in the community. And if you look at many of these organization, they are financing themselves, on a daily basis. So it is not a very not a very I would call good financial management in a sense, because you do not provide for sustainable financing for the future. So it is very important. Pergas has been in existence for like 50 over years. It was established in 1957. So I think it is very important that an institution which is very important to ensure the legacy of the ulama or the religious scholars is being sustained. So just to look at the Perlu Endowment Fund model, this is where it is akin to the Wakaf model, where donors give their donation towards this endowment. We are targeting about 20 million in 7 years. So what we'll do is that this endowment fund will be put into a investment portfolio where the capital will be kept intact, and only the income will then be distributed to the beneficiary. So the managers are currently under Pergas Investment, but we will form a investment committee to ensure that whatever funds that has been put in, the capital that has been put in will be invested first in a Sharia compliant manner, and second, that is to ensure that we balance between the risk and return profile. So this is what Pergas has done, and we have also recently acquired a building. So some of the investment are now put into that particular building to give a rental return. So this is part of the endowment that we have created, and we hope that the community can contribute and also support this cause. And of course, all these are under the the Wakaf model, and whoever donate will be given the tawab or reward in the hereafter, inshallah. Not just here to help with not only the religious asatiza, but the education that will be disseminated to all the your children and to the public at large. So these are some of the things that we have done. We have launched actually on the 21st of April. We started, asking from the community this particular endowment. Just to show, this is the latest building that was purchased. So we would like to, this is part of the community assets that we are looking at. So I hope with this initiative, we can strengthen the community assets and also the community as a whole in its religious sphere. Thank you, Shabana. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let us now move back to Fatina for the closing. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Shamsia, for the sharing. Okay. All right, now we've almost reached the end of this webinar, but before that, guys, please take a minute to share your feedback with us using the link you see here on the screen. So just head over to tinyurl.com/rnw2020fb. Okay. So with your feedback, we'll be able to improve our future sessions for the benefit of everyone, as well as for our community. So please take a moment to share with us your very, very valuable insights. Thank you. Okay, so I believe that everyone here has taken down the URL. And yes, we'll be looking forward to seeing your feedback later. All right, so we have now come to the end of our webinar. If you have some burning questions which are unanswered, please feel free to reach out to us at this email address which you see here on the screen. And once again, thank you all so much for your attendance and participation. On behalf of Islamic Finance Singapore, we wish you all the best in your careers and endeavors. With this, I end our session with a peaceful farewell. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Take care, guys. Stay safe and good night.